But the thing that I was missing that I didn't really know about was mentors. And that's one of the things that RTA gave me that I focus so much on, is that it put people in my life who I actually could like listen to, hear from, and they knew more than me and could tell me about how to like navigate certain things in my life. So one of the things that like I like to first do is find out exactly who I'm talking to and why you're here. The reason why I asked you guys that, for one, is because I want to mold my talk to something that you care about, but also I asked her to read that because that was something that I saw when I came in here, and it goes so well with this. It's twofold, right? One is when you're in a situation like incarceration, right? It's not just that. I honestly feel like these are all just tribulations, trials that we go through in our life, right? The tests, the things that we go through that kind of like mold us, right? Those high pressure situations that when you come out the other side, you're either better or worse. And a lot of people, you know, I would hope most people that I run into, they come out better on the other side. But I have also met people that come out worse on the other side of it, right? You have, for women, sometimes it's a pregnancy. For individuals, it's like going to the Army or the Navy. It can be college. It can be going to prison. All of these different things, they kind of like mold you. A lot of times it happens in your 20s, early 30s. You go into it and it molds you, and you come out the person that you kind of are going to be for the next years of your life. So like when I got into RTA, right, I was already incarcerated 7 years before that. It was like 2013, right? I got incarcerated in 2008. So that's about 5 years. And I had already kind of like been going through it, aimlessly walking through like life. And the same thing was happening before I was incarcerated. Didn't really understand a lot of things, had to kind of figure things out. But the thing that I was missing that I didn't really know about was mentors. And that's one of the things that RTA gave me that I focus so much on, is that it put people in my life who I actually could like listen to, hear from, and they knew more than me and could tell me about how to like navigate certain things in my life. You get that period, but when you have a situation such as RTA where it's so focused, where everybody in there, majority of people in there are of the same mindset, right? It gives this like, it cultivates so much positivity because everybody in there is trying to do something constructive, trying to do something positive, right? That's one of the first things that it does for individuals in there. When you talk about like incarceration in this country, when you talk about what certain things can do for you as far as like helping people that are incarcerated, rehabilitation, people who are incarcerated, and the amount of people that's incarcerated, there's a lot of things that people don't focus on. I told this story a little while ago because right now I'm a public speaker, right? I go around doing public speaking and also doing life coaching and career coaching, success coaching, and things like that. There's something that a lot of people don't focus on, which is what these programs actually do for individuals and what would happen if they weren't there, right? So people will tell you all day about like prisons and police and what would happen if they're not there. Like people talk about defund the police and what would happen if they weren't around, right? So cool, I understand that it would be chaos, but there's also the rehabilitation part of things where if you didn't have certain programs, so to tell you a story to kind of like explain it, I told this story a little while ago at a talk I had where there was a woman, she was working in the mess hall. I was working in the mess hall at the time. She was a civilian. And she was telling me like, oh, I would never want for somebody that did something to my family, committed a crime against me, to be incarcerated. That same thing because they're too nice on you. And a lot of times they're talking about these programs, RTA and things like that. They're basically saying that it's too easy on you guys. You get to act and you get to be in a play and you guys are smiling and all these different things. And they're very uninformed because she doesn't understand what it does for individuals. As I spoke of having us kind of like in a situation where I'm able to be around positive male role models that I didn't have when I was growing up to tell me certain things and teach me certain things and explain certain things to me, right? That's the first part of it. but also like what would happen if it wasn't there. So, for instance, if somebody is in prison for, I did 15 years, 14 and a half. Somebody is in prison for 14 and a half years, and then they don't learn anything. They don't learn anything. They don't grow. They don't get around people who are positive. They're not, just nothing positive, right? Over all of that time, I'm pretty sure they're going to learn a whole bunch of negative things. They're going to learn how to do the negative things they were already doing even worse, and they're gonna become bitter, right? So now when they come home, right, and they come and live around that same person who was saying, because they have to come home eventually, right? Not everybody in there has a life sentence. So then when people come home after 14 and a half years of sitting in the corner eating bread and water, now what? Now you're going to be, oh, I don't want this person in my neighborhood. But the reality is they're going to be in your neighborhood, right? You're going to see them when you go into a supermarket, right? Or when you have your kids around certain people. Wouldn't you rather have somebody who's cultivated, right? Wouldn't you rather have somebody who had learned some type of positive skill, got in touch with who they were, right? How we talk about the introspection, found out what skills they're actually good at so that they don't have to do illegal things, rather than have somebody who is bitter and angry and a better criminal, right? Better at the things they were doing to come live near you, right? And she really didn't have any answer to that question because she knew I was right, right? And I like being right. So I felt good about how I convinced her, not only because I like being right, but also because I feel like somebody was able to understand why these things are essential, why these programs are essential, and why all of those things are important. So for me now, right, it's not just that. It's not just what I just talked about, but also, for instance, and it's hard to read here, but it says, if you use all your energy up on positive actions, there wouldn't be any left to be negative. Stay productive, stay busy, keep going. These are things that I learned from a lot of the individuals that were showed up there. You can change it. A lot of the individuals that were showed up there. When she was showing the video and the what was it called? The Passion of RTA? The Soul of RTA, right? The Soul of RTA. In that story, a lot of the guys, Jermaine Archer, the guy that was singing, Kenyatta Hughes, those guys were the people that I came in contact with that were teaching me by action or by word how to do certain different things. And like I was I look young now. That was how I went in, right? I went into prison basically a child. I didn't know a lot of things, and I learned it by being like, I wanted to be around people who were doing something productive. All of those people in RTA, all of them. I'm talking about in the entire of Sing Sing. Sing Sing is a big place. And before Sing Sing, I was in other programs, but every time I got into one of those facilities that I was in, all of the people who were doing something positive, all of the people that I learned from were in some type of program. When I was upstate, because it's way further upstate, RTA wasn't there yet because they're spreading around. I'm sure they're going to make it into that prison by 2026 or something like that. But once I got to Sing Sing, everybody that was positive was in RTA, and everything that I did positive after that came from RTA. So now another thing that RTA did for me was, so like what do you do? What is your, like, now aside from school? Yeah, like what is, I would say, what is your passion, or what is it that you're good at? Okay. So is it like books? I do too. I do too. I do too. I understand. What are you good at? Okay, okay. You're a Renaissance. What are you good at? Yes.
I'm good at creating space
Uh-huh.
for others to be able to be creative,
Mm-hmm.
to make things, to do things, to learn things.
So you're the architect. Understood. Understood.
That holds space.
Got you. So that was one of the things that RTA did for me, and it was super, like, important for me. Jermaine had talked about how it brings your family together. I always talk about how it's one thing to tell people you've changed, it's another thing to show them you've changed. RTA, so I'm like big on, you might have seen earlier, Instagram is like something that I like love, right? But with me being on Instagram, that's a platform. It allows for me to show what it is that I'm good at. RTA was the platform for us to be able to show our families what it is we were trying to do, but it also allowed me to express myself because without it, I wouldn't have been able to express myself the same way. So while I was in there, I was able to have like a whole art career. Like I was doing visual art to the point where I don't now do it because I feel like I got that out of my system. And I was doing that entire time, which is about like 10 years that I was in 11 years I was in RTA doing visual art, and I was able to actually work that and express myself in that entire time. And now I'm to the point where I say, okay, I'm able to figure myself out in my entire 20s, and then say now I'm 30, 35, I can say, okay, I think that I'm better at public speaking. I think that I'm better at helping people realize the things that are, coaching them into the goals that they have for themselves and the things that they want to reach. So RTA gave me that. Without RTA, I wouldn't have had it. And I know a lot of people that also wouldn't have had that, where they would have basically kind of just been sitting in their cell, not really doing anything, or working on something that has to then go under the bed or something like that. So you can kind of see how out here we take it for granted because we already like have it. Like you can like go on Instagram and show off whatever it is you feel like showing off that you're good at. You can do the same thing with your music, and you can just show that off on a slew of platforms that you can actually express yourself on. But in prison, a lot of guys don't have that, and that's needed not only for their own sanity and well-being, but also for the products, for the good of society. I feel, because now I'm out here and I'm able to do this, right? Not only for my own family, but for other individuals that I've helped out because of things that I've learned through RTA.